Now that we've talked a bit about what color correction and color grading are, and how to put some presets and quickly adjust our color through Premiere, let's go ahead and start looking at how we can further fine-tune our color correction. Go ahead and grab this clip called number 2, White Balance. It should look like a castle. So now that we have this clip, we can see that we have what appears to be a castle sitting out either on a lake or the ocean somewhere. It's a nice shot, but already we can tell that there are some pretty serious issues with it because of just how purple the water is. This is not a color that we would be accustomed to seeing in real life. Now, if this were supposed to be some sort of a fantasy-scape, it could be a creative choice to color grade the water to make it appear purple, but I think we're going to try and make this look realistic. Before I show you that, I want to introduce you to something called Lumetri scopes, which can be found up next to our effects controls. Right now, I'm only using the Lumetri scope waveform. You can find your Lumetri scopes by right-clicking and seeing what your different options are. We have this one called Vector Scope, another Vector Scope, a histogram, and a parade. All of these are useful when we're doing color correction, but I mainly want to introduce you to two, namely our waveform and this one called Vector Scope, HLS. Now the reason why we have these scopes over on the side has to do with our screen temperature. Professional color correction is done on very specifically color-timed computer monitors so that they know that what they're seeing is completely accurate. Now most likely the monitor you're working on is just fine and is relatively accurate, but what these scopes are telling us is that if, for some reason, let's say this image isn't actually purple, it's bright green, but there's something wrong with the color on my screen and I don't realize that, I can tell what the colors are meant to be by looking over here. The main way I can tell is with this one right here, the vector scope. If you look in the background of this vector scope, you can see that there's a slight color pattern that matches a color wheel. It goes in the exact same color direction as these do, where red is on the top, down into purple, then blue, then more of a teal, cyan color, green, yellow, orange, and up to red again. Right now we can see that we have some white particles heading up towards the orange and red direction. This is informing me that my reds and oranges are currently the overwhelming color within my image. So if for some reason this looked green to me, but I saw that all these white particles were up towards the reds, I would know that there was something wrong with the color timing on my computer. The next one I want to show you is this one on the left, which is called the waveform. The waveform shows us exactly how our colors are actually operating in this image. If I drag in another clip into my timeline and I drag forward, watch what happens to this image. It automatically adjusts in such a way that it actually now mimics what is happening on this image here. If you watch me move through this clip, you can see that it's rotating slightly and that there's a big change in my waveform right towards the center where this castle is. Same happens over here. My colors completely adjust, so all of this is looking more like this white out here, whereas all these colors are resembling this gigantic field of grass that I have. This is telling me how my colors are currently appearing on this image. If you look at the top, we can see that there's a lot of purple and red much higher up than all the other colors. The green is down towards the bottom and the blue lower than that. This is informing me that my red is currently the overwhelming color in this image. My goal needs to be to make all these colors blend together into a singular white. I'll show you how to do that. Over on the right-hand side, back to our Lumetri color, click on the one that says Basic Correction. It should be right above our Creative tab. With Basic Correction, we can now go ahead and white balance this image. Now, when you're actually filming, you'll oftentimes want to hold up a white piece of paper or some sort of a blank white sheet in front of your camera so that when you go into color correction later on, you'll know what true white is supposed to be so you can quickly select to it. We don't have that luxury with this clip, but what we do have is this walkway, which I know is meant to be a very light gray color, so I'm going to go ahead and utilize it as my white and work from there. The way we do that is where it says White Balance, next to White Balance Selector, there's a little eyedrop tool. Just click on it, and you'll notice my cursor does not turn into an eyedrop. That's okay, I know that it's been selected. And go ahead and click somewhere on this walkway. Now a few things happened. Automatically on my screen, I can see that everything's gone much more of a blue-gray color. What you may not have noticed is that over on the Lumetri scopes, we had some changes happen as well. I'll go back to before I white balance so you can see exactly what they are. If we look over here, we can see that right now all of my white is heading very much up towards the reds. Once I white balance though, the sharpest white came almost to the center, and right now it's saying that orange is the overwhelming color because it's recognizing the orange of this castle. I'll go back to the original again. Over on our waveform, we can see that right now we have this purple color heading up towards the very top. As soon as I white balance, it all starts to blend together to the point that blue is actually now lifting up a bit instead, which is telling me that because of all this blue surrounding, the blue is now starting to become the overwhelming color. This is closer to what we want because there's no color that's majorly overwhelming the image anymore. With this, there's a clear separation, with this less so. Now from here, we can just go ahead and adjust it further. If we want, we can either base our color correction off of our lumetri scopes, or we can just look at our preview and correct it until it looks somewhat the way we think it should. The way we do this is with this temperature and tint. I'll go ahead and grab the one that says temperature. By bringing it over to the left, it brings out more blue. You can see what happened in my waveform when all this blue went up much higher. Bring it over to the right, and it'll bring out the oranges. Same thing. To even it out to 0, you just need to double click on the dot on the slider. I want to bring it over towards blue a little bit, and I'm just looking between my preview and my scopes in order to see what that's doing to my color. I think that looks pretty good. Now a tint, same thing. It'll take us either over to the greens or over towards the magentas. More green, more magenta. I need this to be a little bit more green. And that looks pretty good right there. Now clearly this image is a little bit dull right now, and we'll go over how to use tone adjustments in order to liven up an image, but we can tell both just by looking at it and by using our scopes that this image is now much closer to correct as far as its color temperature goes. If ever you want to see how your adjustments have actually affected your image, all you have to do is next to the tab where you've just made your correction, in this case it's basic correction, you'll notice this square with a checkbox. Just uncheck it, and automatically you can see what the original was. There's our original, and here's the one that I just corrected. It already looks a lot more accurate to how it should in real life. Next video we'll talk about how to adjust our color tone.